everyone to 5 ways to level up your LinkedIn and optimizing your profile for success. Before we introduce ourselves, I just wanted to go over the agenda. Today, we're going to be reviewing the LinkedIn profile. We're going to give a full overview of all the different sections, how you can improve your existing profile, tips for creating engaging content without overwhelming yourselves, how to build your LinkedIn network to maximize your engagement, and we're going to be answering all of your questions.
And just a note, we definitely encourage you to keep clearly an eye on the Zoom screen, but if you want to grab your phone and put a second eye on your LinkedIn profile while we talk through this, that would probably also be helpful so that you get a visual.
And so just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Hillary Black. I am a conversation designer who creates chatbots, and I'm also a brand and marketing consultant. So I spend my time basically 50-50 between conversation design, creating content, and contributing to that community. And then also helping entrepreneurs and their companies build a brand online and create content for social media.
Great. And I am Sonia. I work in digital marketing and consulting. I use strategic and analytical marketing techniques to build custom strategies for clients. I primarily work with startups as well as mid-sized clients, but I do a lot of work for corporate clients as well. And yeah, anything that touches on digital, your girl is executing it. So jumping all around the interwebs all the time.
And that also includes LinkedIn. I think before we get started, I would love for us to just share a little bit about our personal LinkedIn experiences. For me, like I live on LinkedIn. If you are tuning in because I invited you, you probably found me on LinkedIn. I love to create content there. I think that it is totally an underrated channel. I think it gets a little bit of a bad reputation for being like so corporate and kind of boring, but it actually is a really, really good way to meet people in your industry. So I absolutely love just tweaking and experimenting with all different types of things to see if I can build my network bigger.
Yeah, and for me, I'm of the opposite side. So I am newer to LinkedIn. Towards the end of last year, I pivoted my business to be more forward facing as a consultant, and I really wanted to be seen as a thought leader in the space. And I knew instantly that part of that was going to be utilizing LinkedIn. Hillary and I have known each other for quite a while, and I knew that she was just a boss on the LinkedIn profiles. And so I started asking her for tips. And essentially that led us to this because I really love teaching and giving people, tactical skills that they can implement on their own. So I suggested, why don't we host a webinar? And now here we are.
Yes, here we are.
And has moved forward a lot since working with Hillary.
Yes, and I absolutely love helping people out too. It's like one of my favorite things to help just make things easier for people. And I think like the tips that we have are really going to be helpful. So with that, here are the 5 ways that we're going to cover. We're going to go each one of these in depth. But in general, the 5 ways that you can best optimize your profile are with your profile. So we'll talk a little bit about what that actually means. What is part of your profile, your content, your network, your visuals, and yourself. So let's dive in and I'll have Sonia take over and talk a bit about her own experience editing her LinkedIn with these tips.
Sure. So I had made some small edits prior to talking to Hillary more about what I could do to improve. And this is where I was at that point. So you'll see the 3 screenshots. I had previously only used LinkedIn to update when I had started a new job and really never thought of it outside of that. I really had seen it as kind of like an old stuffy way of using social networks, but I kept hearing more and more buzz about it, and I knew I wanted to take better advantage of it. So I started by updating my bio, and I knew I needed a little color splash in the visuals, and started updating my tagline, started adding some original content, but really didn't understand how to feature it. And started to, create a page for my own businesses. So I own 2 businesses, Sonia Elise Consulting and Round 12, but they weren't fully flushed out in terms of pages. So those were some of the areas that Hillary pointed out that I could improve on, which We did together.
Yes. So now for the big reveal. Here is the after.
Yeah. So in the after, I utilized the banner space above with a template that actually Hillary designed and that we will be sending to all of you guys at the end here. I customized it with my own fonts and my own colors to match my website and customized it to really speak to the types of topics that I talk about. From there, I went ahead and updated my short bio, so the area underneath my name, to optimize it for search and really get to the point of what I do and what I specialize in and why people should follow me. From there, I took my 2 company pages and made sure that those were updated. Those are still future goals of mine to update those even more. But for now, they have clear information on what each of those company does and new little favicons there so that they are branded and not with kind of like that little ugly placeholder. I've updated my about. One thing I didn't realize is that you have so many characters there, which I know Hillary will go into more. So I really expanded on that. And then in the featured content page or portion of the profile, I went ahead and updated to highlight some of the best content that I had shared already on LinkedIn.
And so you might be looking at this and thinking maybe you're looking at your own profile and like, wow, I don't have any of this filled out, or you have like a lot of ideas. And this is something that like you can edit it all the time. Like, as I know you mentioned, like this is still a work in progress for you. Like, I probably edit my LinkedIn profile like every single day to add things. So don't feel like it has to just be this thing that you have to perfect instantly and then you just like never think about it. It can be something that you kind of build on over time. So, the first tip, as I mentioned, is the profile. And so you just saw a lot of what goes into the profile, being the tagline, which is the little part under your bio, and the about section. So, this actually allows for 2,000 characters, which is so much. Like, you could write an entire life story about yourself. And so this is a place that you can really like add in different elements that wouldn't necessarily appear in your experience section. And you can kind of direct people to different content, different, press releases that you've written, different accolades that you have, how to work with you, what your website is. Those are all things that don't really fit into experience that I think the about section can really help with. And then the company and work history, as you saw, Sonia kind of edited those to have the avatar, to have more information. And it's really important here, I think, too, to talk about what you actually do as opposed to just like listing what the company is. Like that doesn't necessarily share what your expertise is, what your results were that you drove. And then that little featured section, which you can feature posts that you've posted, but you can also add links in. So you can add your website, you can add your portfolio, you can add how to work with you, things like that, depending on where you're at. So the tagline, this is what I keep kind of talking about. I like to call it a micro profile because this is something that follows you everywhere that you go on LinkedIn. So this is like what it would look like on your mobile profile and similar to what it looks like on your desktop profile. So here is your little bio / tagline that you get to have. I unfortunately have a lot of different jobs. So my tagline is a bit intense. It has like a lot of different words in there and a lot of different titles. But as you can see, there's a small snippet of it that follows you in your posts, that follows you in your comments. And then also if you Google your name, or like I Googled conversation designer LinkedIn, I was like number 7 of results. And you can see right here the same tagline. So this is a huge opportunity, and maybe like Sonia, you could share a little bit about like how you went about creating that for yourself.
For sure. So when I was building my business, I knew that there were a few key words that I really wanted to hit on. And similar to the profile that the bio that you use on your Instagram page or really anywhere else, I, of course, have a few revolving versions. And like Hillary, I'm always updating it. Right now, I'm between, is consultant a better word or strategy a better word? So again, it can be always evolving, but I think defining 5 key words was a good starting point in terms of maybe one or two in regards to what I do, one or two that maybe make a reference to the method that I use, and then one or two that help self-identify someone who might find me useful. So I think in mine, I have something about well-funded startups. I use well-funded on purpose because I know that I'm not at the cheapest price point for people. So that kind of was like a cue. I use personalization a lot because I don't sell very many templates or other items. And I wanted people to really understand that if this is, very handheld work, and that I'm, in it making them a strategy that is geared towards them. So I think that's a great starting point. And then maybe working with our copywriter that's in the chat, and you can, or a friend. I have a friend who specializes in helping people write entrance essays. And I gave her first draft, and then she gave me some ideas, and we kind of went back and forth 2 times until it felt really good to me in terms of, yeah, this is hitting all the bullet points that I want to achieve.
Yeah, and if you two are like both of us are business owners, so we're coming from it at a bit of a perspective of attracting prospects. But if you're trying to attract recruiters or you're trying to attract companies, those are like your prospects. And so you could consider writing what your current job title is, but then also like if you're aspiring to be something, or if you are wanting to work with a certain type of industry or a certain type of content. I know, like in the conversation design space, these words that I kind of have here: conversational AI, chatbots, VUI, which is voice design. Those are all things that recruiters would be searching for. And so adding in the relevant keywords to you is a good point to start with. Like, don't feel like you have to just, treat it like it's a Google like keyword search, but add in those kind of, yeah, like 4 to 5 that are relevant to you. So now that you have a perfect profile and you're ready to attract all new audience, new prospects, new clients, new jobs, what should you post?
The big steps.
Yes.
So, for me personally, and it might be different for everyone, I use Instagram as my primary channel. And actually, I was just talking about this on live, but in terms of identifying primary and secondary channels. So, Instagram is my primary channel, and I view LinkedIn and Facebook as my secondary channel. So, when I build content, I build it based on how it will be consumed on Instagram, and then I reformat that for LinkedIn or Facebook. So here I've given 2 examples of that. The first one that you'll see here is a series that I do on IGTV called You Asked, So I Answered. I make a short IGTV answering questions from my followers in regards to social media, marketing, or other business issues that they may have. I then download that video in its final form, and I upload it to LinkedIn separately, as opposed to linking out from LinkedIn to the final post. Because as Hillary will note, posting your content within the platform, as opposed to pushing it or just creating a link and sending people out, will perform better in terms of like views and the algorithm. So I download that video in its final form and I upload it to LinkedIn with a slightly different version of the copy, because I do think that the caption from IG is much more conversational, and from LinkedIn, I'm reformatting that to be much more thought leadership, and that I'm advising people this way. Similarly, on the second IG post that I've noted here, I actually did a text only version for LinkedIn. I only used the caption, and I moved that over to LinkedIn because I felt like the imagery didn't really add to anything. It was nice for Instagram, but for LinkedIn, there was no added value there. It was really, the value was in the caption, so I took the caption only. So that's just an easy way that anytime that you're creating a single piece of content, it should be able to live on LinkedIn in some formatted way. You just have to think of that one step of how will I pivot to edit this to make it the best for LinkedIn.
And do you find that you have like a different audience on your Instagram versus Facebook and LinkedIn?
Definitely. So my Instagram has much more already, to the point where I have the types of people that I'm looking to speak to, small business owners, other people in the marketing space. My LinkedIn profile, because at my earlier stages in life, I added every single person I met ever to LinkedIn. I am a bit in a portion where it's a little bit sticky as to what people are doing there. So I am, having some serious thought around removing my connections that no longer make sense. I used to be super deeply entrenched in the fashion industry. I still work in fashion occasionally, but definitely not even close to what I used to. So I have a lot of stylists and a lot of people that I no longer technically need in my network. So I've been focusing on removing those people and replacing them with newer connections that are CEOs, small business owners, and other people within the marketing space.
It's interesting because I also used to work in the fashion industry, like as a writer. And so a lot of like, I was the exact same way. I added every single person. That's kind of like what just was the trend. So I have a lot of people who are even just like they make hats, or, they are like editors at somewhere that they don't want anything to do with me, and they don't care about what I am talking about
That's
being.
what?
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, I have no idea what this means. And so by filling, in with people who actually do care about that, it has helped so, so much. And yeah, just a few more tips about content. And you can see a few examples of my content that has worked really, really well. The text only posts and like the polls are something that you wouldn't necessarily think, like, it seems kind of old school to just be only posting text. But LinkedIn actually like really rewards you staying in the platform and purposely like trying to get people to engage within the platform. They actually like strip out the URLs for your links. So if you post a link, it will say like a LinkedIn link shortener, and it really does make the engagement go way, way down. So I definitely would not recommend sharing links directly. One way that you can share them, which I have like a little example here in the little blue box, is I actually said, and this is how a lot of you signed up for this webinar. Instead of just saying register here, I said leave a comment if you want to attend this, and I will send you the link. And so I got way more people who engaged with this post, because every time someone comments, it works similar to Facebook, that like every person can see every single thing that you're doing. And so it helps to reach people beyond your network by seeing someone that they are connected to commented on your post. And same there with like hashtags. I recommend adding hashtags into your posts that are relevant to the content, because people actually follow hashtags similar to Instagram. So there's a lot of kind of like similarities, but I would say that LinkedIn is more like stay within the platform, have clear call to actions about getting people to comment or like or say their opinion. And then also to make sure that you are actually engaging with other people is the way to kind of get a little boost from the algorithm. And so we've been talking about this a lot. I think that you should not add everyone. That's kind of my unpopular opinion, is
I
that it
agree.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many connections you have. All of
Mhm.
these connections, if they are not relevant to your industry, if they're not relevant to your business, if they're not relevant to your life, don't add them. Like, think about, your personal network of people who you want to recommend for things, people whose content you want to see. Like, your network is directly impacting the engagement that you get on your content, and it's directly impacting the people that LinkedIn suggests you to be a connection for. So there's like a few places in the platform where you'll see like suggested contacts, and a lot of times that is based on who you're connected to. So just consider that. You can remove people. I think that's a good way if you have like way too many connections, because you want to make sure that you're seeing posts. And I do too. I probably have like 2,000 connections or something like that, which like I don't know 2,000 people. I don't know 50 people. So just thinking about, if you want to be connecting with people, what's the purpose for that? Like, what are you going to bring to them? What are they going to bring to you? And what they're bringing to you is also their network. And so it really does matter more than you would think. And just having like 30,000 connections, which is the maximum, isn't actually helping you that much. It's actually kind of hurting you because people who aren't active are like dragging your content down. Then you kind of think of like, okay, who do I add? How do I get them to accept my requests if I don't know them? I get a lot of requests every single day, and I probably accept about like 10% of them because I get ones that are like at the bottom here. Hillary, your profile caught my eye, and it looks like we know some of the same people. We could benefit from one another's network. How could we benefit? Who do we know that's the same? Why is that relevant that that's the same? Or like this one that you probably have all seen. Hillary, I see we both have an interest in digital marketing. Would be great to connect. Who doesn't have an interest in digital marketing? And that's one of the examples that's like automated. So you can actually go to services and say, look at the keywords that are connected to this person's profile and then just send them a message. But this is in no way relevant to me. And so as someone who really like protects my connections, I would deny both of these.
Yeah, I recently have two examples. One of me requesting someone that I didn't know. She's a writer within the sociology and marketing space that I really admire. And I recently ordered her book. And I'm also subscribed to her newsletter. And it was one of those moments where I was a little scared to request because I kind of see her as like a celebrity in the space.
Yeah.
But in the request, I put a note and I said, I recently ordered your book and I'm really excited to see, what your future publications are going to be. And she connected and she said thank you and that she hoped I enjoyed the book. So that was really great. And then today I had a request to connect from someone who took a recent professional course that I did. And there was over 1,000 people in the professional course. But I know that it was specific to brand marketers and people who are high CEO level. So the fact that they mentioned that we were in the same course in the connection, then I connected with them right away. So just two examples to apply there.
Yeah. And to just think about that, like the people I accept are people who it's clear they've been to my profile. It's clear that they either, they really like the company that I work for, they really like my content. And that's why I'm actually saying, okay, I'm bringing value to you, you're bringing value to me. It also really doesn't hurt to get a compliment from someone. So that's a good way to kind of get in the door to people who you want, places you want to work, or your ideal prospects. And so tip number 4 is your visuals. And Sonia talked a bit about this in her before and after. So this little place right here, your cover photo, is like a pretty valuable piece of real estate because people who aren't connected to you can see it. And so just think about ways that you can use that to your advantage, whether that's saying, connect with me, follow me, ways to get in contact with you, what types of connections you want, what types of businesses you service. That's a really good way to actually like get in front of people and let that speak for you. And then your profile picture as well. So your profile picture follows you the same way as that little tagline, which is here. So make sure that that is a good reflection of you, not necessarily like, I don't think that professional headshots are necessary for every industry, but know what works for you. And then lastly, the tip to bring to your profile is yourself. So LinkedIn, as I just said, like it doesn't have to all be boring, corporate, watered down. You can be yourself. You can bring the version of yourself to your industry that makes the most sense for you, depending on what you're in. You know that better than anyone. But bringing yourself, your unique experience, your perspectives, as opposed to just copying what every person out there is saying, you are the thing that is going to separate you from every single other person on there. So I think that like bringing yourself is the most important thing you can do.
Yeah, and that I think rings true for someone who's looking for a job as well as someone who owns a company. Both things. If you own a company, most likely you are part of the face that sells that service. So you should be bringing yourself, your point of view, and your point of differentiation to LinkedIn. And it's the same thing for someone who is looking to secure a new job. At the end of the day, people want to work with you, not only because you're skilled at what you do, but because you have a good personality, you're excited about the work that you do, you are showing that you have authority in this space. So I think on both sides, no matter what you're trying to achieve, like bringing your personality and not feeling like LinkedIn has to be boring, that was like a big mindset shift for me in terms of using LinkedIn and not feeling scared to post videos that have much more personality in them.
Yeah, and I just say for myself too, like I used to use LinkedIn the same way that everyone else uses it. I used to update it every time I got a new job and then never otherwise. And ever since I've started posting content that's more relevant to my connections, posting things that share my perspective, what makes me different than everyone else, it really has been rewarded. And like my, followers have gone up, the amount of people messaging me about my content or with different opportunities to be on a webinar like this, that has definitely improved by me just being myself, which we all want to just be ourselves. That's, I think, the best thing about the internet.
Great. So we have one question already. Let's get to it. If you have more questions, as Hillary mentioned, please put them in the Q&A and we can get to them. But the first one is from Matt. As the old saying goes, less is more. As we add more info to our profile, what kind of info should we remove?
Ooh, well, what do you think about this? Because you recently did like a pretty big audit of your profile.
I really think that a lot of the things that I would remove, if I haven't yet already, are things that have to do with like college or career posts that I had done a long time ago that are no longer relevant to kind of like my future career pursuits, and some of the additional things that were like clubs in college or high school that, when you're first trying to get a job, like everything you think is relevant, go back and remove some of that very junior level work to really get a senior level view on my profile.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of similar to your resume too. Like I think as you get more established in your career, removing a lot of the stuff you did in college, like my resume, I don't even think I put where I went to college or like any details at all. And that's kind of dependent on, where you're at. But yeah, I think a lot of that, also just like the lengthy descriptions about what your company does, like that's not as important as the work that you do and what your role is in this place.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I would just say maybe keep it to like the last year to maybe 3 years of work, depending on where you are in career.
Yeah.
And remove anything else, because truly after 3 years, especially if you work in anything digital related, obsolete. That stuff doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yep, all good. All right, Matt, hope that helped. Now we are on to Donna. What is the best way to customize your banner behind your profile picture? So lucky for you, in the email after this, we are going to send some template options that you can go ahead and customize. But we used Canva. If you guys don't already use Canva, we highly recommend it. And they have the dimensions already there. If you type in LinkedIn in the search, you can see templates already in there, but we are going to email some out that you can go ahead and edit that looks similar to mine and Hillary's.
Yeah, and then you can add in, maybe you don't want to have like a little sentence, you just want your links and things. I included some blank ones. So it's just kind of, you have to like trial and error with it. Same as like anything Canva, I find.
Yeah.
Upload it, check it on mobile because it's slightly different, and just make sure that it kind of fits within that.
Mm-hmm. And then we are going to Paul. Do you really see leads or sales from the platform, or just some engagement? Go ahead. I think you've done the most in sales.
Yeah, so I see sales. I see genuine leads for business opportunities from like for me with like content creation and with consulting for people. And then my company, we actually use LinkedIn primarily for our sales. Like we don't send cold emails. We spend like all of our time on LinkedIn because that's where people are. That's a lot better way to get in front of these people with the various push notifications, connections, like all the different ways that you can kind of contact them. And so it really just depends on like how you're tailoring your profile and your content and your connection requests. So if you're using it, like say maybe you use email or you use Instagram for lead generation, you can really follow those same frameworks on LinkedIn. And the best part is like a lot of people spend their time on desktop. So I feel like people actually spend like more time going through all of these versus just like scrolling through all the stuff.
Yep. Agreed. And I think I've heard a lot of people say that they have seen incredible results from sales on LinkedIn and from reaching out that way. So I think it's just making sure that your outreach is custom and not, templated and really spammy. So make sure you're doing that in a thoughtful way.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so another question we have is from Aparna. If I want to build a personal brand, is consistent posting on LinkedIn a more effective approach, or should I focus on a few impactful posts, not post consistently? What would you suggest? So I would say like maybe the difference between posting every day or 5 times a week versus like 2 or 3.
Yeah. What would you say in general about like just people trying to build their personal brand on any platform?
On any platform, I think the more consistent that you can be, the better. Lots of I statements, lots of opinion moments, and lots of video on yourself. I think those are the keys to building a personal brand on any platform. And I think like repetitive content. So I have multiple series that I do every single week. It's not always on like the tightest schedule. I do a live on IG that I sometimes post to LinkedIn depending on what the question was. And I do it whenever I have time, but it is under like a recurring moment. And then I have a pre-recorded IGTV series that I do that I almost always put to LinkedIn as well. So I think if you can find those moments that you can auto recreate content over and over again of you giving tips, sharing your experience, and answering questions, that is a great way to quickly build personal brand. So I think the more consistent posting you can be on LinkedIn or anywhere is super key.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think that like in terms of the amount of times to be posting on LinkedIn, content does seem to live a little bit longer there because as I mentioned, like when people are commenting, it's kind of like resurrecting it again.
Mhm.
So I think if, as opposed to just feeling like I have to post every single day so that I can like get my post in, making sure that you have those impactful posts as often as you can. Like maybe if you can only post once a week or you can post every other week, but then make sure that in addition to that, you're actually engaging with other people. I think that's like can go a really long way too, is like leaving comments and just really like engaging with your community is a good way to kind of keep up your activity if you can't be posting.
Yeah, I have gotten some good connections recently by posting on people that I see as mentors or thought leaders in the space. They're not my direct contacts, but they are posting really great content. And if you comment underneath that content with something that is very thoughtful, not just like, this is great, or like, I agree, you're actually either challenging the point of view or adding something else that is personal. Like, I tried this and it worked because, or other moments. I think other people in the comment section see that and they are attracted to your profile. So don't forget that it's not just about using your microphone, but it's about being part of the community as a whole.
Yeah, and that's definitely a really, really good way to get more connections is by leaving those comments, liking, replying to other people's comments, engaging on things, even with those people you might not be connected to.
Exactly. Does anybody else have questions? I know we only scheduled for 30 minutes just because we wanted to keep it quick to the point. We know everyone is busy, and now that you have the tools, you're probably ready to dive into your LinkedIn and start updating like crazy. But if you have any other questions, we are happy to answer them. We'll give it another minute or two, but if not, then I mean, we really stuck to our 30-minute goal here. I gotta say, like, giving info in 30 minutes was like, Hillary was like, I normally go way over an hour. And I was like, we can do this 30
Yeah.
minutes in and out.
Yeah, if you've ever gone to any of my other webinars, you know that I am a talker. And so I'm glad that we could, keep it to the point. And like I said, we'll be sending out both a cheat sheet so that you can relook at all these tips and see like, arrows to your specific profile part. So that will be super easy for you. And then also I'll be sending out the recording and the slides as well.
And just to wrap things up, a few places where you can find us. Hillary, where are you on the interwebs? Mhm.
Well, so you can find me on LinkedIn. As I said, my name is Hillary Black, linkedin.com/in/Hillary Black. And then for everywhere else, you can just go to my website, which is hillary.black. And so that will include all the links to my Instagram, which is like where I'm most active outside of LinkedIn.
Cool. And for me, you can find me at Sonia Elise, ELYSS on Instagram. And my link in bio has links to everywhere else where I live, but I am also under the same name on LinkedIn. And you can also find us on Clubhouse. If you're new to Clubhouse, Hillary and I were talking about how we tried to be cool and also simultaneous broadcast this on Clubhouse, but we couldn't figure out the audio.
Yes.
So we will definitely be chatting soon about a room on Clubhouse. And if you need anything else, please email or DM us. We love to answer questions and help people out. So thank you guys so much for coming. This was great, quick to the point, and we sincerely hope that you have a successful venture in LinkedIn in 2021.